we want to fast forward to 1996 and the candidacy of one Bob Dole, right?
Yep. Also, I forgot to mention, after we got to Mondale, every single person we're talking about, with the exception of McCain, is still alive. And
Oh,
Bob Dole
also,
is one of them. And Bob Dole's
Perot's
old as
dead.
fuck. Oh, Perot's dead? Okay, I didn't realize that.
Oh yeah, Bob Dole is almost fucking. Oh, Bob Dole is almost 100 years old.
Yes, he
All
is.
right. I mean, which I'm not surprised. When I was a kid, Bob Dole I thought was ancient.
No, and he
Uh,
was. Uh, Bob Dole, also in recent years, there's been a little bit of a Dole revival among members of Congress. Congress has been voting him honors in the last few years at random. I forget which ones. I guess we'll come to them in a minute. I got them written down here in my notes somewhere. Um, but another interesting fact about the 1996 election is that there was a Libertarian ticket, and the VP nominee on the Libertarian ticket was none other than current Libertarian nominee Joe Jorgensen. So,
oh, okay.
yeah, the more things change, right?
Right, right, right. I should run for a candidacy. We'll put William Jennings Bryan as my VP pick. Bob Dole, 1996 election. Bob Dole was a very important Republican senator, part of the Reagan, part of one of these people who really cut his teeth in the 80s as a pro-Reagan guy. 1988, he had sought the Republican nomination, lost in part because of Lee Atwater's tricks, if you will. Bob Dole did not react well. Anyway, Dole had a bit of a scare in the primary. Pat Buchanan won New Hampshire, but that didn't really go anywhere else. There was also a portrayal of Pat Buchanan as some kind of crypto neo-Nazi type. Anyway, Dole was dead on arrival. There was really no way he was going to beat Bill Clinton. Dole could not really do any issues. He tried to do morality and decorum as his issues, but they just didn't. They didn't really sail. Turnout was very low, less than 50%. One of the lowest in American history. You've had other cases of that too, but this one is an interesting one for that. But here's the thing about it: while Clinton won, he did not win by the margins projected. It was believed that Bill Clinton was going to completely steamroll Bob Dole and blow him out, and he didn't. And amongst pollsters, the 1996 election is considered one of their big fuck-ups. Wasn't talked about much at the time, simply because the election was won anyway. But pollsters were thinking Bill Clinton was going to have like a fucking 1988, 1984, 1972 type moment, and he didn't. He won convincingly. No Democrat has won as many electoral votes as Bill Clinton since then. But a bit of a closer race than expected. And by the way, this gave a boost to Fox News, which was only just starting at the time. Because Fox News was saying that, of course, the polls favor the Democrats, so they underestimated Bob Dole's support. So, that being said, it was an awful campaign. Bob Dole had no fucking chance in hell. Everybody knew it. He
ran on a human rights amendment, or human life amendment, so basically outlawing abortion. That was, I guess, his wedge issue. He also ran on Bill Clinton being an entitled boomer who hadn't really done anything.
Right. The moral character issue thing, which, whenever you make your race about character issues, it shows that you really have nothing to run on.
Right. No, it does. And that's part of why I've been very critical of the Biden campaign.
Well, the Biden campaign is just redo the Hillary campaign. It's the same strategy.
Yeah, it's just not a good strategy.
Well, if they win, Derek, it is.
Oh, sure, yeah. I mean, if I win the lottery, then clearly I'm a financial genius.
Yes, you are.
Let's see. Dole, yeah, like you said, did better than expected. That being said, one thing I do have to say about after studying Perot and Dole more, it makes me realize that Bill Clinton, his reputation for being really electable and formidable as an electoral opponent, is massively overstated.
I agree.
Bill Clinton never got 50%. In 1996, he hit 49.2. That was his highest percentage of the popular vote. Dole, by contrast, got 40.7, so pretty solid beating. But the Electoral College is only 379 to 159. Also, one of the problems Dole had is that after winning the primary against Graham, Specter, Buchanan, and Alexander, he was not seen as conservative enough by some people, and that's why he put Jack Kemp on the ticket, because Kemp was a supply-sider. So
Yeah,
he
I
didn't
mean,
really excite
Dole.
the base, and a lot of people were pissed at Republicans over the Gingrich shutdown, which Dole had opposed, but it still stuck to him anyway.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, actually, I don't think that one hurt him quite so much, honestly. I mean, Dole and Gingrich really didn't look comfortable together. They didn't really like each other, and that was a known thing. I mean, you got a point there. The shutdown had made Republicans look kind of bad, but it really didn't have much of an effect. And I got to side with Newt Gingrich on this one because there became this narrative that Bill Clinton outmaneuvered Newt Gingrich. Newt Gingrich this day says, no, I outmaneuvered Bill Clinton. I think Newt's right because Newt was like, hey, I got Bill to do what I wanted to do.
No, Newt, I gotta protest that. Listen, I wanted to go to the right as well because I saw where the energy was, and if you're triangulating your position, sometimes you gotta move left, sometimes you gotta move right, sometimes you gotta move up, sometimes you gotta move down. That's just basic geometry, and that's why my 3D chess game is on fleek, to use a term that the kids are using, and yours is not. It's also why if we both go into a bar, I'm way more likely to get laid than you. Suck it.
I'm way more
Alright. I'm trying to think, is there anything more to say about Dole? I mean, also Dole actually has a pretty decent sense of humor.
He does, surprisingly, man. He's actually pretty funny when he lets loose.
Yeah, not on display during the campaign, though.
No, not at all. We were all surprised when Dole started showing. Dole was like a political, I guess, commentator on the Daily Show when Craig Kilborn was in charge in the '90s, and it's fucking funny. And we're like, what the hell? Why didn't he ever show this? And you're like, okay, but Bob Dole came from World War II generation guy. Hey, that's Bill Clinton for you. He beat 2 World War II vets, Bush and Dole. Right?
Yeah. That's because I just have that level of sexual charisma that people just can't resist my allure. Because, people are ready for a change. We all secretly know that the boomers are just a little bit greater than the greatest generation.
Just a little bit, man.
Yeah. Anyway, that's enough Bill Clinton for tonight.
Yeah. Although, look, I will be straight, of course. I mean, the Bill Clinton '96 election is, like, at least for contemporary times, one of the most impressive. I mean, most impressive outside of '88, the most impressive that I personally witnessed, of course. But I mean, in terms of raw numbers, but he did underperform, all things considered.
Also, with Bill Clinton and the '96 election, I remember I was a kid at the time, and we were stationed in an Air Force base, and my dad is the kind of guy who's his politics or whatever the politics are of the person he just talked to, and all the military officers at the time were super Republican because Clinton had slashed the military budget after the Cold War. So I remember going to some award ceremony on base, and I was listening to my dad and his co-workers discuss politics, and I was under the impression that Dole was about to just lay the smackdown on Clinton, that it was about to be a bloodletting, and yeah, that's not what happened.
No, that's hilarious. So there's people they're like I was convinced that Alf Landon or Thomas C. Dewey was going to win because all my friends were voting for Landon, right?
Yeah. So that was my first ever exposure to a political bubble, at least that I was conscious of. I was about 10, I guess.
So we'll go ahead and give Bobby Dole what like a E and F. What do you think?
I'll give him an E. I mean, he also did make a small innovation. He was the first person to have a campaign website, which is surprising because he's not an Atari Democrat.
No, you think Al Gore would have had algore.com already, huh?
No, I mean, Clinton and Gore were a few weeks later, so Dole beat them to the punch with Kemp. And let's see, what else did Dole do anything interesting here? I feel like I'm leaving something out.
Not that I remember.
I mean, he had Viagra ads.
That was afterwards.
Yeah, that was after. I don't know. I mean,
which once again was like we were like Dole. We didn't know you could be so chill, and it just. But anyway, he's in Viagra. Yeah, he did some Viagra ads in the late '90s.
Although, actually, I remember him as a conservative, but actually looking into his voting record, I can see why the people on the right were a little upset. Because Dole actually had a fairly moderate record overall. He had voted for civil rights, he had voted for voting rights, he had partnered with McGovern to expand food stamps. So this guy was not a right-winger. But I think Clinton painted him pretty successfully as a right-winger, because that's how I remembered him. And Clinton also said that Dole would cut Social Security and some other things, which Dole did not want to do. And the reason Clinton was able to get away with that is because Gingrich wanted to do that.
Yeah, in some ways you could argue Clinton was running against Gingrich and did so successfully in '96. Definitely plays a part.
Oh yeah, the other Bob Dole thing is he referred to himself in the third person a lot, which is weird.
He did.
Bob Dole believes that America will be better when we institute the policies that Bob Dole is proposing. Therefore, Bob Dole advocates that you vote for Bob Dole on Election Day. Apparently, he also sang something called "I'm a Dole Man," a parody of Soul Man.
Yeah, fucking Bob Dole. Actually, Bob Dole, there is a bit of a. I will say, like, as far as like presidential losers in my lifetime, he had one of the better like post-loser lives, if you will, right? Like he'd do some comedy, be in a Viagra commercial. People didn't really hate on Bob Dole too much.
No,
they weren't like, thank God, took the shit out of him,
Also, with Bob Dole, him doing the Viagra commercial, nobody was asking about his dick, but he told us anyway. I mean,
he told you about his Johnson.
He basically did on television what LBJ could only do to his staffers. So, in some ways, he actually was president.